Hello everyone, welcome to the development process of Apocalypse Rewind. As mentioned in our last devlog, we have participated in Brackeys' 4th game jam. Here's our walkthrough. We started off the jam by reading the theme. In case you didn't know, the theme was Rewind. We didn't start working on the game right away, because we wanted a good idea. All our first ideas were either unoriginal or we didn't like them enough to justify making them. We eventually started working on a game a few hours later with the following idea: a post-apocalyptic zombie game where you have to defend the first prototype of the time machine. It is powerful enough to transport you back in time, but it can only do so a few years at a time. You need to recharge it after it is used. Your objective is to keep it safe long enough so that you can travel back to the beginning of the apocalypse and prevent it from happening. Thus, you are rewinding the zombie apocalypse. We liked this idea and quickly got started on the basic stuff. We implemented the first-person movement system alongside shooting. We wanted to make quite a few weapons, so we needed a good way to change the different stats of each one. We settled on a system that has a player shooting script that handles the actual shooting, and you can give it any gun stats script. Each gun stats script contained all of the necessary data for our guns, and it was very easy to implement new guns. By the end of the first day, we had 3 different guns: a pistol, an AK-47, and an RPG. Was it necessary? No. Was it worth it? Probably not. Did we have fun making an RPG? Absolutely yes. Each one of these weapons have their own reload and recoil animations, and we were quite happy with how it turned out. We kicked off the second day by creating a wall. This will be placed around the time machine in order to protect them. We also did this early because we wanted to test the gun shooting, which ended up working very well. After that, we got started on the enemies. They are just red cubes for now, but their AI is already done. They will target the time machine, which is for now just a cube in the middle. In order to get to it, they will start breaking the wall that is the closest to them. If another wall happens to be broken before this one, they will retarget and choose a different path to the time machine. They are also able to start attacking the player if he gets too close. The way this works is by having 2 sphere triggers around the enemy. One is very large and one is small. The larger one is his detection area. If the player enters this area, the enemy will start following him. If the player exits the trigger, the enemy will resume its path to the time machine. If anything enters the smaller trigger, either a wall or the player, it will start getting damaged by the enemy. Once an enemy dies, he disappears for now. Oh, and since the enemy can damage you, we are now showing the player's health on screen. Of course, 3 weapons weren't enough, so we made a sniper rifle. It took a lot of work to get it to a good state, but we're happy with how it turned out. Now with 4 weapons, it was probably time to add weapon switching. We settled on putting the active gun behind the player and then bringing the new one out, in order to set the tone a bit more. We added an explosion effect for the RPG and a few sounds. We need to make a few more, but we set it up in such a way that it is very easy for us to add new sounds. The only sound we didn't like is the AK one. It sounds kind of weird, but we're going to try to change it. On the third day, we had to get a lot of the visuals done. We started by remaking the UI and showing the active gun. It's not the best UI for an FPS, but it gets the job done. After that, we started working on some models. We ended up making a map which is a little better than the plane we had before. A zombie model with a rig and different animations, which we modified a bit by making different materials for each zombie variant. And finally a model for the time machine. We already have plans for what we could add, like making the clock hand spin really fast at the end of a level and making the screen show you when you complete a level. But when it came down to implementing the zombie animations, it went surprisingly smooth. We didn't have a single problem with them and ended up fixing a bug that would get zombies to move very slowly when targeting the time machine. We also made a zombie spawner script, which makes making waves very easy. Finally, in order to set the tone of the game, we played with the materials, lighting, and added some post-processing and some different particles. This day was all about making the levels and the connections between them. We worked a lot on a system that would make level transitions smooth, and we settled on this. When the player first loads the game, he will see the inside of the time machine. It contains a small screen with interactable buttons. When he presses on a button, a small animation will play that will fade out the screen. Then the screen will come back saying that the new level was loaded and showing the new weapon. We also made the time machine beep and turn red when an enemy attacks it. Finally, at the end of each level, the player will see a zoomed image of the clock. This clock will start spinning backwards and stop after about 3 seconds. Then the camera will switch to the time machine screen, where you will be able to go to the next level, or back to the main menu. The levels we settled on are pretty generic. Each level you get a new weapon that is very effective against the new zombie type. For example, in level 4 you get an RPG that can one-shot the new enemy with a direct hit, or 2 shots from the splash damage. Since we finished the levels yesterday, it's time to make the weapons unlockable at their specific levels. Also, we made it so you can actually lose, since you couldn't before. Now, if either you or the time machine gets to 0 health, you will see the time machine script where you will be able to go either to the main menu or retry the level. Apart from this, we spent the rest of the day testing, which didn't prove as easy as it sounded. We updated it to a newer version of Unity when we started working on our game, and we've never had to make a PC build of it, so we never tested it if it worked. Since we didn't have a problem building for PC before this, we just assumed it would stay this way. Well, apparently not. The newer version of Unity wanted us to install the Windows 10 SDK in Visual Studio, which it did by giving 3 errors that never specified this. It took quite a bit of time for us to actually make the PC build, so this day didn't have much progress. Today we got a few bugs fixed, a main menu, more sounds, and some smoother transitions between the different levels. We wanted to make sure it feels like actually traveling in time, not just changing the scene, and we think our transitions represent this very well. The main menu is very basic, but it gets the job done and it fits the rest of the game. In terms of sounds, we added some background music, a sound for when you get hit, and a sound for when the enemies get hit. On the final day, we had to make a tutorial. We ended up making a pretty long one that explains everything about the game. After this, we had to fix a few more bugs, make some builds, adjust some graphic settings, make some GIFs, and publish it. It actually took quite a lot of time, because there were a lot of problems that we encountered, but in the end, we solved most of them. Overall, these last few days wasn't so much about adding content, but about polishing that already existing one. We think the game ended up alright. There were some things we wish we would have added, but most of us were away at the end of the jam, so we didn't really work at full capacity. If we had more time, we would have added headshots, balanced the game a bit better, and added some map decorations like trees, houses, cars. Nevertheless, we had a lot of fun making this game, and I hope you will be enjoying it too. There is a link in the description.